Imagine this. You're a public defender and you're about to witness your client's execution. You see the lethal injection be administered, then your client's body become motionless. You have yet again seen someone fall victim to the system that believes in capital punishment and the death penalty. Then think of this. You're on a jury, and the jury is left with the decision of whether or not a person will receive an execution and the death penalty or receive a life sentence in prison for their punishment. Is the death penalty even constitutional or morally correct? Today I'm going to expand upon those ideas and give a little bit more insight on those thoughts. My topic today is the death penalty. The death penalty has been a debatable topic in the United States for several years, and over the past few decades has come to change in several states. Some states favoring the death penalty more, then some states doing away with it and getting away from the death penalty. I'm qualified to discuss this topic because of the extensive research I have had to do for this speech. There are three main points I will discuss today, talking to you about the death penalty. First, I will talk about the problem of the death penalty. Secondly, my second main point, I will talk about the cause of the death penalty. And then my third main point, I will mention the solution to the problem. Now let's begin looking at the problem with the death penalty. My first main point is the problem with the death penalty. According to an article by Arthur Goldberg and Alan Dershowitz titled "Declaring the Death Penalty Unconstitutional, the Death Penalty Violates the Eighth Amendment Right of the Constitution." This Eighth Amendment declares that a person should not have administered to them cruel or unusual punishment. The article goes on to mention that the court should make the decision in certain cases as to whether the death penalty should be administered or a life in prison sentence should be upheld. Some of the forms of the death penalty are cruel and unusual. According to a book by Hugo Bedeau titled "The Death Penalty in America," the types of executions have adapted to become more humane. The types of executions over the years and types of death penalties have ranged from everything from a firing squad to electric chair, hanging, as well as a gas chamber. And then nowadays we have what they call lethal injection. Some of the problems with these can be seen like with hanging, for instance. Hanging may lead to decapitation and a prolonged strangulation of the criminal. And as most of these were administered in public, that's not a very good public image. The electric chair has been used to replace this, but it has also been phased out by what we have now as the lethal injection, as well as the gas chamber. The gas chamber uses cyanide to slowly make the criminal unconscious and then slip them into death. So in California, there was actually a case in which the cyanide gas chamber was determined to be cruel and unusual, and therefore it was not used in that case. Now that we've discussed the problem with the death penalty, we can look at the cause of this problem. This goes back to the years of the 13 colonies and our move from Great Britain to the 13 colonies. According to the book, The Death Penalty, An American History by Stuart Banner, the death penalty has been a part of our society since the 13 colonies. In Great Britain, the death penalty was administered for various crimes from murder to burglary, also in crimes such as counterfeiting. So when we moved from Great Britain over to the 13 colonies, we also brought our belief in the death penalty and was administering it here. In the 19th century, people began to sympathize with the criminals. People began to develop reasoning and see how people can be tempted by evil and how they would imagine themselves in the criminal's shoes and being tempted by the evil. This led to slow separation of religious input regarding punishment. So some of this death penalty stuff came from religious beliefs, and this kind of separated it as people began to sympathize with the criminals. Now that we know about the cause of the death penalty issue, we will discuss the solutions to the death penalty. My third and final point is discussing the solutions to the death penalty. One way of solving the problem of the death penalty would be to completely abolish it and do away with it. This is a move that several states have made over the years, and according to deathpenalty.org, the following statistics are true. Only 28 states still administer the death penalty, one of those being Tennessee, and 22 states do not have the death penalty. 3 of the states that do still administer the death penalty have recently taken some time off of actually giving the death penalty, so they're kind of in a neutral position, neutral state on it. Another solution, which was previously alluded to in the article titled Declaring the Death Penalty Unconstitutional, would be relying on a judge and the court to decide whether or not a case warranted the issuance of an execution or the death penalty. Currently, this method is in use in which state legislatures may decide whether a case warrants the death penalty and execution or maybe a life sentence in prison. The final solution that I will mention is the use of a jury, a death jury, so to speak, in which the person would be judged by his or her peers in deciding whether they would receive the death penalty and an execution. In conclusion, today I have discussed the death penalty. There were 3 main points that I talked about. The first main point was the problem of the death penalty. Then the second main point was the cause of the death penalty and the cause of the problem with the death penalty. And then lastly, my third main point was a solution to the death penalty. Whether you find yourself on a jury or ever witnessing an execution, now you will know a little bit more about the death penalty. The information provided will also allow you to make a more conscious decision on whether the death penalty should still be implemented. The debatable topic has been in review for several years and is still questioned as to whether or not it has a place in our society today.